Good morning, students. So we are having new lecture. We have covered almost like the history of forensic science. We have covered NABL. We have covered ISO. So we'll just brief about NABL and ISO. Okay. We'll just leave this. We'll just brief about NABL and ISO. So we have seen about ISO. ISO 17025 is the standard which we are having. So ISO stands for International Organization for Standardization, and IEC stands for International Electrotechnical Commission. Okay. Why is this used? ISO is like a body which provides a certification to the labs. Okay. So ISO was developed so that testing and calibration laboratories were recognized for their capabilities and area of competence. We learned about ISO yesterday, calibration and testing. Then we have seen about the structure of ISO. ISO 17025 is what we are learning. We have learned about the structure. We have 4 main sections. First section is general requirement, structural requirement, resource requirement, process requirement, and management system. We will just brief you about the requirements. That is general requirements. It just mentions about the impartiality and the confidentiality of the result. ISO should not be impartial while they are giving the results. Okay, they should not be partial to anyone. They should be partial to anyone. They should not give partiality based on money, bribery, or something like that. They should not do that. So first, general requirement mainly shows about impartiality and confidentiality. Then we have structural requirements. Then we go to general requirements. In general requirements, we have almost 6 subsections. Okay. General requirements, mainly the requirements, how many manpower they have, how to the facilities they have, all those things. We have discussed them yesterday, so I won't be discussing too much. Then we have process requirements. Process requirements is where we like tenders and contracts, we review all those things in process requirements. Okay. Also customer complaints, all those things are dealt with in process requirements. Management requirements, there we have like internal audits. I told you about auditing and yesterday, right? So there we have internal audits. All those things are dealt with in management system requirement. They will give some corrective actions also. If there is any problem with the lab or the problem with the method, they will tell you. So I will share the PPTs with you, and you have all the references. Okay, I have in my PPTs there will be always the references. So you can just go to the references and learn more about this ISO and all. Okay. Then we also have NABL. Okay, NABL is like India's accreditation bureau. Accreditation, like what is accreditation? It's like a formal recognition. It's like giving a formal recognition that lab is competent to do this work. For example, it's a biology lab. It does DNA work. So if NABL is giving an accreditation, that means a central authority has told that this lab can perform DNA sample according to the standards of international standards. Okay, that is what is meant by accreditation. So NABL is the accrediting bureau for India. It's a central government organization. So it stands for National Accreditation Board of Testing and Calibration Laboratories. So it is under the Department of Science and Technology. Okay. Yes, we have seen about the benefits of NABL. I think yesterday's lecture we missed out this, right? The connection was lost. So yeah, customers can identify NABL on their website. I told you to go to NABL websites. You can directly go to NABL websites and you search for all the labs that are present inside. Okay, so that's like that. Customers can also go to NABL website and search for the labs which they have given accreditation. Domestic and international market, like if you are having an NABL accreditation, you can accept sample from outside also. Outside country sample also you can accept. Okay, because you are using something that is valid. Using the process that is valid the entire world. Okay, if you are using a scientific method that is valid entire world. So if you accept the sample from outside also, it's fine. If you send the sample report to some outside country, that is also fine, because we have a certification for a standard. That means your tests are standard. Whatever test you use, that is standard. Outside India also, inside India also, the same test is used. Reduce elimination for retesting. So if NABL is there, that means that accreditation is there. That means that laboratory is like already well established. Okay, they already has a well established procedures. They use international methods. They use standard methods. All those things. That means if you are giving a sample, they will do it in the utmost and the proper way. Okay, that means you don't need to retest it again. There won't be a problem of retesting again. So you can without retesting you reduce the time also. So NABL labs, because they are certified, there won't be any issue with retesting the sample again. You don't need to test the sample with another lab again. Okay. Here also I have provided you the links. Okay, links where I have taken the information from. You can go to the links. Please go to NABL website also and learn about NABL. Yes. Now we will have a lecture on, in your syllabus there is a part that is we have some agencies that is involved in crime detection. Okay. In your syllabus there is also a part where allied institutions. Okay, allied institutions. So you are out of your 12th standard now, you are in BSc now, so you will have to work on your own. Okay, so allied institutions, I will be giving you as an assignment. For allied institutions, I will be giving you an assignment. Okay, allied institutions written here. See CF, PB, BPRND, CDFD, all those allied institutions. You will have to. I am telling you about the agencies. I am not giving you this as an assignment because most of these agencies won't have a website of their own. Okay, they are like all central government agencies. They keep their self secretive. Okay, there are some secret organizations also. That is why you won't find out the information about them. Okay, it's very hard to find out the information about them. So that is why I am taking this lecture. But all these allied institutions that is in the syllabus, that you will have to do as a assignment. All you have to do is they have their own website. Just go to their website. Just check what their institutions are for, what is their mission. Okay, it will be given vision and mission. You can click there and check what is their use, what are they doing, what do they do, all those things. You can just write it as a short note, just one page. Okay, there are only like 6 or 7, so you have time till 16th, right? You can just write one institution per day. So I think when you come, you can bring it. That is assignment for you. Yes, now we will start with agencies involved in crime detection. So that is going to be the lecture today. Agencies involved in crime detection. So the first main agency is crime detection. It comes as police. Police was the first organization. So we don't need to study the structural and how it is done and all those things. We just need to study how the history, basic history and development. That is what is in your syllabus, the history and development of these agencies. So we will be only dealing with that. We won't be going to the structure and all. So first one is police. So before 1948, before our independence, so police was under British. Okay, the British Raj. So police was under British, and it was named it was known as Imperial Police or Indian Imperial Police. Okay, before our independence, our police were under British, and it was known as Indian Imperial Police. Okay, so now what is the service? Now we have IPS, right? Indian Police Service. So after independence, what happened? That Imperial Police was changed to Indian Police Service or IPS. So before independence, our police was under British and they were known as Imperial or Indian Imperial Police. Okay, and after 1948, since India got independence, our police became Indian Police Service or IPS. Indian Police Service is an all India service where it's an all India service. That means Indian Police Service is an all India service. IPS is an all India service. What does that mean? All India service, like example, there is IPS, IAS, okay, IFS, Indian Foreign Service. All those things are known as all India service. That means the officers can be employed by the union government as well as state government. Okay. All India service, the officers can be employed by the central government also, can be employed by the state government also. Okay, both these have equal rights. For example, if you are studying IAS or IPS, sometimes the head of our police, for example Kerala, the head won't be a person from Kerala. Okay, he will be appointed by the central government. In Tamil Nadu, for example, the head may be someone from Tamil Nadu or maybe someone from Gujarat or Andhra Pradesh, anything, because they are appointed by the center, okay, not by the state. So half of it will be appointed by the state, half will be by the center. So all India services, for IPS also same thing. Your collector may be from your state, the collector may not be from your state. Okay, it depends where they get their appointment. It depends. So for all India services, IPS is an all India service. So all India services, the employment officers are employed by both the union and state government. Yes. So we will have to deal with the history of police. Okay, we will have to deal with the history of police. So British introduced the Police Act in 1861. There was something called the Police Act. Okay, Police Act by the British, that was introduced in the year 1861. What did the act tell? The act had some main clauses. They told that police must be completely separated from the military. So they had military people, okay, and police people were, everyone was mixed. Okay, so this, according to this act, they told that police must be a separate department. It must not be with the military. Okay, it has to be a separate department. That is one clause. They must act as an independent body. Yeah, so they must not act for the army. Okay, they must be acting as an independent body, just like Indian police, that is an independent body. It doesn't come under Indian army or something. Just like that, the police must be an independent body. It should assist the collectors in discharge of law and responsibilities. So in British times, there were tax collectors, all those people who collected the tax, and all those people that were in public servants. So British public servants. So police had to assist them. They have to go with the tax collectors. They have to assist them in maintaining the law and law of the land. So the Police Act of 1867 was introduced by the British, and they told that police must be completely separated from the military or the army. Okay, police should be an independent body. Okay, and they should help all these collectors. Okay, tax collectors, everybody, government employee, all these tax collectors, they should help them or they should assist them in discharging laws and responsibility. That was the main features of Police Act of 1861. So there was another one more act known as Indian Councils Act. So along with the Police Act and the Indian Council Act, this police was formed. Okay, police was formed in India. That was in British times. So the first cadre of police was known as Superior Police Services. They were first known as Superior Police Services. So in the date was 1861. Okay, after they making a separate body for police, these people were known as, not known as the Indian police, they were known as the Superior Police Services. They were known as Superior Police Services, not IPS, not Indian police, nothing. They were known as Superior Police Services. Okay, they were later known as Indian Imperial Police, and after some time they changed the name to Indian Imperial Police. Okay, that name Indian Imperial Police, that name stayed till our independence. After our independence only we changed the name to Indian Police Service or IPS. Okay, so the first name given to them was Superior Police Service, and after some time they changed the name to Indian Imperial Police. Okay, and after independence our constitution changed the name to Indian Police Service. So the highest rank at that time, the highest rank with Indian Imperial Police was Inspector General or IG. Okay, highest rank was Inspector General. So I taught you about fingerprints, Henry classification. So I told you, right, Henry was the Inspector General of Bengal Police at that time. So that is the highest post. That is why Henry had so many subordinates and he made them do the work and he took the classification system. We dealt with all this in our previous classes, right? I told you the story and all in the previous classes. So Inspector General was the highest rank. Okay, yeah. So there was one problem, like Indian people couldn't rise to the highest point. Okay, in IG and all, Indian people could not become IG and all. They will only get the subordinate post. Okay, they will only get the sub inspector post, subordinate post. Okay, that is because if Indian people became the IG and all, they will make, because British was ruling India at that time. The Indian people are becoming IG and all, what will they do? They will try to resist the British, right? So Indian people were not given the highest ranks. Okay, they were only given subordinate ranks like the sub inspector ranks, and all those small ranks were given to Indian people. Only Britishers used to have the highest rank. IG and all was mainly Britishers. From 1920, Indian Imperial Police was open to Indians, and entrance exam for the service was conducted by both India and England. So 1920 is the date. That is the date when they started to give these provisions to Indian people also to join, like for the highest post they try to give this Indian people also a chance. So the chance was by examination. So they conduct an examination, and those who get the highest rank used to get the highest post. Okay, just like your exams right now, you have your UPSC exams, right, or PSC exams, Kerala PSC exams, or your Andhra Pradesh PSC exams, okay, or Union PSC exams. So public service exams, what happens? They will conduct the exams. Those who are getting highest ranks only will be placed some in highest points, right? Just like that, from 1920 onwards, police also, the imperial police also started this pattern of examination. Still it's continued. Still it's continued for IPS also. You have to write the exams, UPSC exams. So from 1920, imperial police was open to Indians also. Before that, Indians couldn't get to higher post. So from 1920, it was open to Indians also, and they could write the exams, entrance exams for the service. Yes. So in 1948, a year after India gained independence, the imperial police was replaced by IPS. So 1948, in 1947 we got the independence. So 1948, we replaced the name of imperial police to Indian Police Service or IPS. Okay. The modern Indian Police Service was created under the Article 312. Okay, there is something called Constitution of India that has the fundamental rights. Everything is inside the Constitution of India. So the Indian Police, they were also created. IPS was created according to the guidelines by the Constitution. Okay, Constitution guidelines, Article number 312, subclause 2. If you are interested, you can type them in Google and you can search for it. You can read the articles. Okay, it's good to have a knowledge of Constitution of India and everything. Okay, you are living in India, right? You must know the law of the country. Okay, so read law books also. That is very interesting. You should know the law of your country. For example, I am giving somebody arrest you for some case. Okay, you can tell the police officer, right, that you can't arrest without a warrant. So there are some cases where you can't arrest a person without warrant. There are some cases where you can arrest a person with there should be warrant to arrest the person. So that is known as cognizable and non-cognizable offences. We will deal with basics of law in the next section. So it's good to know law. Okay, always try to learn law. You are living in India, so try to know the law of the land, law of India. So modern Indian police was created under the Article 312, subclause 2 of the Indian Constitution. IPS officers are recruited from the civil service examination conducted by UPSC. So how are these IPS officers recruited now? Just like in British times, they were recruited by examination. So now also UPSC is known as Union Public Service Examination for all the states and union territories. Just like combining PSCs of all the states together, they have something called Union Public Service Examination or UPSC. Okay, so Indian police officers are recruited from UPSC only. After the UPSC exam, civil services, you have to choose civil services. Yes, this is Indian police IPS simple, and you have like Satyameva Jayate. Okay. Yes, now we'll move on to CID. I'll just brief you about police one more. So police, before independence there was imperial police. Okay, so Indian police service is an all India service. That means they can be recruited by the union, also by the state. Okay, the act, British in 1861, British introduced the Police Act. Okay, that is how police was first created. In 1861 Police Act, they told that police should be separate from the army, there should be an independent body, and they should help all these tax collectors for maintaining the law. Then Indian Councils Act, together with Police Act, they created the first police. Okay, then the first cadets or the first batch of police was known as Superior Police Services. Then later they changed the name to Indian Imperial Police. Then Indian Imperial Police. Okay, IG was the highest rank. Indians could not attain the highest rank till 1920. From 1920 they started the exams. Okay, you could write the exam, and if you had higher marks, you could go for the higher post. So the name Indian Imperial Police was changed to Indian Police Service or IPS 1 year after our independence, that is in 1948. Okay, and today's police is established under IPC is established under Article 312 subclause 2 of the Constitution of India. Okay, and they are recruited by UPSC exams. So we're done with police. Now we will move to another interesting organization, that is CID. Okay, CID one is not your shows. There's a department known as CID. So CID stands for Crime Investigation Department. Okay, Crime Investigation Department is a branch of the State Police Services of India responsible for investigation of crime based on criminal investigation departments of British Police Service. So there was a criminal investigation department in British Police. Okay, there was something called Criminal Investigation Department in British Police. They used to investigate all these crimes. Just like that, most of India's services are like taken from British only. Our Constitution of India is also like taken from British Constitution. Okay, so most of these laws in India are all based on British laws only. All British laws is also there. That is because India was under British. Okay, so British used to implement what all they implemented in Britain, they implemented here. So in Britain they had a branch known as Criminal Investigation Department. So just like that, they want to create one in India also. So under the Indian Police, they created the Crime Investigation Department or CID for India. Okay, it was under the police services. Usually it was under the first was under the Bengal Police only. So the first CID was created by the British government in 1902. Okay, 1902 based on recommendations of Police Commission. So we know when police was created, that date you know, that was in 1800s. So in 1902 they started the CID or Crime Investigation Department along with the police. This was part of the police department. In 1929 the CID was split into special branches. Okay, CID and the crime branch. 1929 there were so many crimes, so everything one cannot handle, right? So they were split, the divisions were split into special branches and Crime Investigation Department or crime branch. Everybody knows about CBCID, crime branch. For now it's like CID is present, Crime Investigation Department is like a part of every state police. Okay, every state police will be having a CID and they are now separated into different sections. Okay, I will show you all those. Yes, so from state to state, CID service or CID will be having different branches. If you take Kerala, there will be some different branches. If you take Andhra Pradesh, there will be different for CID in Andhra Pradesh. Tamil Nadu will be different. Okay, Gujarat will be different. Delhi will be different. So CID may have several branches from state to state. These branches include CBCID, crime branch. Okay, in TV you can see like people coming, police coming from crime branch, tell that we are from crime branch in movies, and also that's a part of CID only, Crime Investigation Department. That is crime branch. There is Anti-Human Trafficking and Missing Persons Cell. Human trafficking cell is there or missing person cell is there. Anti-narcotic cell. Okay, whenever you are caught with a narcotic substance, people from anti-narcotic cell used to come. Okay, that's also a branch of Crime Investigation Department. Then there is Fingerprint Bureau. Every state will be having a fingerprint bureau. They will recruit fingerprint experts also. So that's also a part of CID. Then you have the CID, Crime Investigation Department. Only some state will be having like CID as such. All the other states will be having different sessions like CBCID and Anti-Human Trafficking Cell, Narcotic Cell, Fingerprint Bureau, then Anti-Terrorism Squad. Okay, ATS. So many movies you would have seen, like we have Anti-Terrorist Squad. That is all comes under CID, sub branches of CID. So it depends on state, depends on different state what all services they have. So CBCID or crime branch is a part of CID that is headed by the DGP of Additional Director General of Police or ADGP of Police, assisted by the IG of Police. Okay, that is just the head. You don't need to know about the head, but this branch investigates serious crimes including murder, riot, forgery, counterfeiting. All those cases are done by CBCID. High Court, High Court may also tell CBCID to or crime branch to investigate some cases. It depends on the state, what the state High Court tells them or what their inspector, like they only take high profile cases or like too much public interest is there. All those cases will be given to CID or crime branches. Okay, normal cases usually police people investigate it and they give the report. So state government will tell what cases they are to investigate, and it is CID or Crime branch of CID is headed by Additional Director General of Police, assisted by the Inspector General of Police. Yes, so we are done with CID. We'll just brief about CID. So it stands for Crime Investigation Department. Okay, it was started by the British police because British had something called Criminal Investigation Department in British police. So they wanted to start that in India also. So they started Crime Investigation Department in India under Indian police. Okay, that the year was 1902. 1921 it was split into two different branches, that is Special Branch and Crime Branch. CIDs depends on state, what state has for CIDs. Okay, some state will be having only one CID department, some state will be having different departments. There will be Crime Branch, Anti-Human Trafficking Cell, Narcotics Cell, Fingerprint Bureau, or Anti-Terrorism Squad. Depends on the state. Yeah, so Crime Branch, telling about Crime Branch, they usually take in crimes which are too much of public interest, okay, or what the state government tells them to take, or if the High Court of the state is telling them to take this case. All those cases are taken by Crime Branch of the state. So we are done with police and we are done with CID. Another interesting division, everybody doing forensic wants to get into CBI one day. So we have CBI, that is the next department. CBI stands for Central Bureau of Investigation. Central Bureau of Investigation. So its origin, we will start with the history of CBI because in our syllabus we have the history and development. So Central Bureau of Investigation traces its origin to the Special Police Establishment which was set up by the government in 1941. So there was something called Special Police Establishment or SPE. Okay, Special Police Establishment or SPE, that was set up by the government of India in 1941, just like a special branch for the police. Okay, that is known as Special Police Establishment or SPE by government of India in 1941. What were the what was they created for? Special police establishment, their functions were to investigate cases of bribery and corruptions in transaction with the World War and Supply Department of India during World War II. So that was the date when World War II was ongoing. Okay, so India was under British only. So the date was 1941, right? So India was under British only. So India also had to involve with the British in the war. So we had to send supplies, all those things. So India is known for bribery. So people who are sending the supplies, they will also take some to their own places. So they will also take some bribes and all. So CBI was, or Special Police Establishment was established to keep a check on this, that every supplies is going, nobody is taking anything illegally from that, all these things, to keep a tab and check on that. Special Police Establishment was introduced by Government of India. Okay, so World War ended. Okay, we had World War ended, and still we knew that bribery was going to increase in India. Okay, so we kept that department like that itself. After World War, we didn't dismiss that in department. We kept that department just to keep check on all this bribery and all those cases. Okay, so even after the war ended, the need for a central government agency to investigate cases of bribery and corruption by the central government employees was felt. So CBI or SPE is a central government introduction, like central government establishment. So it can directly like check into cases of central government employees. Central government employees are the one who does more corruptions. Okay, they are like, they will be having so much power. Okay, so much power, so they will try to do corruption also. So you as a state police, you can't just go and check the central government agencies, right? So India knew that we needed a central agency to keep a check on all these central government employees. That is why they didn't dismiss the CBI after World War II. They kept it. It was not known as CBI at that time. It was known as Special Police Establishment or SPE. Yes, the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act was therefore brought into force in 1949. Okay, and first was started in Delhi Police. Okay, the Special Police Establishment was under Delhi Police. Okay, so since India knew that we needed this department, they brought in an act. That act was known as Special Police Establishment Act. Okay, and by this act, so where was CBI or SPE working before? all this war department, right? So by this act they changed CBI from the war department to home department. Okay, CBI was working with the war department. Okay, then the war ended, then India thought we need the CBI or we need the special establishment, police establishment to check in all the central government employees. So they established something called Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, and with this act they transferred from the war department, they transferred this CBI or the special police establishment to the home department. So when it comes under home department, you can check everything, right? Inside the India, every central government employees you can check. Inside the war department, it was only checking all these war supplies and all those things. So they made it come under the home department. So after coming to the home department, what happens? It's the home ministry. So jurisdiction or the power of CBI increased. They could they could investigate any state or union territory. So after coming to the home department, CBI's powers increased and they could create investigation or start investigation in any state. Any cases they could take in and they could start investigation. They have to get the permission of the state government also. Usually state governments give permission to CBI or they will ask for CBI to take in a case also. So after coming into the home department, CBI had the power to take the cases of every state, okay, every union territory, and they could do their work. So this special requirement acquired its popular current name. So Special Police Establishment name was changed to the currently Central Bureau of Investigation by Ministry of Home Affairs, okay, or the Home Ministry. That was in 1/4/1963. In 1963, Ministry of Home Affairs thought that you should change the name to Special Police Establishment. That was not that good name, so they changed the name to Central Bureau of Investigation for India to investigate all these central agencies and state agency crimes. So that name was given by the Home Ministry in 1963. Okay, so initially what CBI did do? Initially they were only checking all the central government employees, right? Initially they were only checking the central government employees where they are taking bribes, where they are doing corruptions, all those things CBI used to do. But after giving the public service, for example, after independence, so many public sectors came. Okay, there were so many public sectors that came. The railways came, Indian the railways started coming. Then you have the Indian banks. All the banks became centralized. Okay, so that means the spectrum of CBI increased. Okay, they could take in all these bank employees and all became centralized. Nationalization became, so CBI had the power to investigate everybody now. Okay, they could investigate all the public sectors. Then banks also got nationalized, so they could directly investigate all these bank crimes. Everything they could investigate. First they were only concerned with government employees, but after independence, so many public sectors came. So CBI also increased its powers. They could investigate the public sectors now. Okay, they could investigate all these banks because banks are nationalized. So CBI, they have this reputation of impartially doing crime, impartially investigating crimes. Okay, it was therefore decided in 1987 to constitute two investigation divisions in the CBI, namely Anti-Corruption and Special Crimes Division, the later dealing with cases of conventional crimes besides economic offences. So CBI was very good in dealing with all these crimes. The state government, the central government, they used to deal with so many crimes. So because of that, they were given two more departments. There were two more separate departments, so that workload will be decreased from the CBI. So they started two more departments. The first one is the Anti-Corruption Bureau. There was Anti-Corruption Bureau and the Special Crimes Department. So to check all these crimes and corruption and all, CBI, to take the main load from the CBI, they started two more separate divisions. First was the Anti-Corruption and second was the Special Crimes Division. That was started in 1987. So this is symbol for CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, industry, impartiality, integrity. Yes, this is their headquarters. Okay, CBI headquarters is in Delhi. It's in Lodi Road, Delhi. So there is some Indian Forensic Science Laboratory. So CBI takes in cases also. They have their own Central Forensic Laboratory. Okay, CBI CFSL. We learned that in the last lectures. CBI CFZ. So this is the main office of CBI, that is in Delhi also. They also have their laboratory, forensic laboratory, that is also in Delhi, Lodi Road, Delhi. You can try for internships there also. After finishing your BSc or MSc, you can try for internships there also. That will be great experience. Yes, then we have our Intelligence Bureau. We'll come to Intelligence Bureau. We'll just brief CBI once more. So, CBI was established by the Special Police Establishment. It was known as Special Police Establishment, okay, in 1941 by Government of India. The reason was India was involved in the World War, so India was under British, 1941, right? So India was under British. We had to send supplies for war, everything, personals for war. So that was a perfect time for people to do corruption, okay? So Indian government didn't want that, so they established a special police establishment, okay? So they used to check all this bribery and all these things in the war department. So even after the war, India wanted to keep this department, okay, to keep a check on all the central employees, because after war they knew that still corruption will be happening in the central level, so they need this department. So they kept the special police establishment after the war also. So what did they do? They established an act that is known as Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, that was in 1946. What they do? According to this act, they transferred the power of CBI from war department to home department. So it came to home department now. Home department is a very big department, like you can, because of that CBI had wide spectrum of cases. They could like have all the central employees under that, not just a war department. Since it came under the home department, it could investigate all the central employees. So coming under the home department, it extended its, like from the war department came to home department, right? So under home department, we had all the states for CBI, all the states and union territories, everywhere CBI could do their investigation. Its name from Special Police Establishment, that name was changed by the Home Ministry, okay? Home Ministry didn't like that name, I guess. They changed the name, okay? They changed the name to Central Bureau of Investigation, or CBI, in 1/4/1963. Yes, so initially they will only check all the central government employees, all their crimes, but afterwards CBI was given more power, okay, more power, because after independence so many public sectors started coming up. Your air sector, your rail sector, all those things used to come up, and your banks became nationalized. So many employees came in, okay. So CBI was given more power to deal with all this. And CBI had a good reputation in all these years. They were impartial in their investigation. They had a good reputation, and because of that, they were given permission to start two more departments. That was the Anti-Corruption Division and the Special Crimes Department. They both started in 1987. 1987, CBI started two new departments, Anti-Corruption Bureau and Special Crimes Division. Internships are also available in Anti-Corruption Bureau, okay. You can try it after your BSc. This is the symbol of CBI, and this is their headquarters, that is in Delhi, Lodi Road, Delhi. They also have a central laboratory for them. They also have a CBI central laboratory, that is also in Delhi. Yes. Next, we are going to some more bigger agencies, that is the Intelligence Bureau, or IB. Okay. So Intelligence Bureau is considered as the oldest surviving intelligence organization in the world. Okay. So it is one of the oldest intelligence bureaus in the world, Indian Intelligence Organization, or Intelligence Bureau. What was the main reason for the establishment? To collect domestic intelligence. Intelligence Bureau was collecting domestic intelligence. That is the main focus. IB technically falls under the authority of Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay, it falls under Ministry of Home Affairs. So since it's an intelligence bureau, what they did is, IB's director, the director of IB, is a part of Strategic Policy Group as well as Joint Intelligence Committee. Joint Intelligence Committee and all, and Strategic Policy Group and all are above this ministry. They come in contact directly with the Prime Minister. So what they did, they made the director of IB a part of all this Joint Intelligence Committee. So because of that, IB director, they had the power to report directly to the Prime Minister, okay, Prime Minister of India. They didn't have to go to all these ministries and all. If it was under the Ministry of Home Affairs, they would have reported their cases there, but they did, like, they made the director of IB part of Joint Intelligence Committee of India, okay, that reports directly to the Prime Minister of India, okay. So IB's director can directly report the cases directly to the Prime Minister of India, nothing, no middleman in between. This Intelligence Bureau, yes. So IB's exact date is not known. It was used in British used IB for getting intelligence, because British, they knew that Indians were not happy with the British rule, okay, and there were always some fight or mutiny in Indian people. So British wanted to know what are the reasons, who is creating these commotions in India, who are the main leaders. So all these things British people wanted to know. So they created Intelligence Bureau to get all this information. So there was a Sepoy mutiny, right? You know about Sepoy mutiny, okay? Mutiny of 1857, okay? That is one of the biggest mutiny of the First World War, First Independence War. It is also known as the First Independence War, okay? That is known as Sepoy mutiny, 1857. So in that time, British was a little bit afraid that Indians are trying to revolt against their rule, okay? So they knew that they needed some good intelligence agencies, well established intelligence agencies. They knew they need that. So IB was founded in December 23 officially, okay? IB officially was founded in December